It's true what my friends are saying, some pro-Russians, that the conflict in Ukraine is a conflict between two visions of the world. But their interpretation is it's Western imperialist vision and authentic multicultural vision of coexistence and so on, of different modes. I don't like the coexistence that Putin stands for. You know where you get a model of this coexistence? You remember when Taliban took over, they immediately made peace with China. The deal was what? You, Chinese, allow us in Afghanistan to do what we want, to treat women the way we do, but we will not mess with what you are doing with Uyghur Muslims in your country. It tells a lot if you look at who are Russia's direct allies today. Iran, North Korea, and so on, Afghanistan even. It tells you a lot about how, and this is a horrible thing to accept, but yes, world imperialism and so on, but my God, can't we accept that in spite of all the horrors of Western imperialism, what Putin stands for is nonetheless worse? And now I come to, first time I return to my title, Catastrophe Can Save Us. You know that the latest news I got from my friends in Ukraine give a little bit of hope. Ukraine, no doubt, was an extremely corrupted country and so on, with all the oligarchs. But do you know that now the left is awakening slowly there? They said, organizing themselves, wait a minute, half, even more of the oligarchs, I don't know how it is here in Austria. For example, many of them came to Slovenia, and close to Austrian border, Radenska, a big spa, they simply rented for months the biggest luxurious hotel and so on. And people in Ukraine are asking, we are doing the fighting, they are doing that. It's under their pressure that Zelensky is now organizing this anti-corruption campaign. He knows that people are not simply fighting. They are raising the crucial question, which is, but what is the Ukraine for which we are fighting? Will it be the same extremely corrupted oligarch system? And that's why I wrote a text for which I was attacked. Maybe, I don't know if it appeared in Germany, with the title, Ukraine Between Two Colonizations. Yes, Russia wants to colonize it. But what do you think the West is doing? Do you know that they have in the south that Chernozem, the black earth, allegedly the most fertile, best in the world? But do you know that 1/3 of this best earth in the world is already owned by American agricultural corporations? Do you know that there is all the time pressure also from the West on Ukraine that it should become economically, at least, dependent on the West? My hope is that now, maybe something will come out of it, maybe not, that Ukraine will begin to awaken, you know, to ask the question again, not just free Ukraine, but what kind of Ukraine? But what I don't fear so much that Trump will now do some crazy things, revolution, blah, blah. No, he already gives hints that he will act superficially, much more modestly. You know, he will try to enforce some peace in Ukraine by putting pressure on Ukraine, and here we can debate it, but I know all that Ukraine is doing wrong, corruption, Western capital. For example, do you know that 40% now of the best Ukrainian earth is the best in the world? to grow plants and so on. 40% is already in Western hands. But nonetheless, I think that I don't agree with this standard leftist idea. Ukraine is leading a proxy for NATO, a proxy war against Russia. Sorry, first, this is so humiliating for Ukrainians. Do you think really they are so stupid to say, we could have lived in peace, but hey, why don't we lead a proxy war? No, they are desperate, they are afraid. The choice for them is not peace or war. It's war or disappearance. Trump is saying this all the time, explicitly. No, Trump, sorry, now I'm confused. Second, to put me in gulag for a second. But Trump's friend, Putin is saying Ukrainians don't exist. And I don't understand how leftists have sympathies here for Putin when you don't remember this. I think I was earlier here, not last year. You know, when Putin started the aggression, he gave two speeches, 21st and 23rd of October, whatever. It was February or March, February, yeah. Do you know that you can find them on YouTube immediately? He mentions critically just one name, 2 times, Lenin. He said the proper name of Ukraine should be Ukraine of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. And then another time and so on. So I just don't get this, but let me return to. So Trump is intelligent enough. I think he will play this game because one thing is true. He didn't start any wars. He even eased the tensions with North Korea. But this is too optimistic. He gave an ambiguous hint even to Netanyahu that he should stop. So what I fear is that he will not do any direct horrible things, like new war, whatever, but that he will proceed in a much more cautious way. Just he learned this in his 4 years out of power. Taking over, filling with his people institutions, slowly, step by step. First, it's limitations to abortion. Then, now I read somewhere that in some states already, if you are not yet 18, 19, a woman, you have to have parents' permission to get the pills and so on, contraception pills, so that we will think, oh, but lives go on. Listen, where was all the fear? And step by step, all of a sudden, we will find ourselves in a different universe. Just so I finish.
Realize Ukraine. But I have some friends there, and they even feel a little bit oppressed with the present Zelensky government for making too much compromise with Western powers and so on. But I have some friends there and some French journalists who visited them as well. You know that city which is now almost under siege, Kharkiv, the second biggest city. My friend, a big Slovene journalist, we are good friends, went there 2 weeks ago and wrote for a Slovene leftist weekly journal a wonderful text where he discovers how these people are not involved. He's talking about everyday people. He's talking about people who learned how to survive when, you know, every day 1 or 2 bombs fall here or there in Kharkiv. But they somehow managed to organize their life. It becomes part of the life, you know, that with radars and so on, they discover that some drones or whatever are approaching. You're told, okay, go quickly into some basement or what, and so on. But nonetheless, the social life go on, and ordinary people bring food to soldiers. I was quite fascinated by all this. So this would be my answer to those who claim, oh, socialism is a utopia. No, people are at this. No, Now I will be more skeptical. People are at the same time better and worse, I claim, than this image of egotists. First, people are worse in the sense of, as already Jean-Jacques Rousseau saw, egotism in itself is not a bad thing. Egotism means I care of myself, I want to take care of blah, blah. But if you're a rational egotist, not in any pathetic sense, but rational, you soon discover that collaborating with others is profitable even to your self-interest. You know. No, the problem is when logic of envy enters. When, as they say, this is one of the big sayings of capitalism, it's only that I have to win, the other has to lose also, you know. And then the next step is that it's more important that the other loses than for me to win. But there is nothing natural in this, because it's incredible when you are in a state of emergency, war, and so on. People who before in their daily life were corrupted, opportunists, and so on, they all of a sudden do incredible things. Not in a pathetic way, like, oh, I want to be a hero, but simply like shells or to enter a building which is under fire to save somebody, or when the building is collapsing. Yes, it has to be done. You are there, you hear the shouts from outside, it has to be done. So this is how, in the direction in which I would have moved as a Socrates figure today. I think that this idea that socialism is too naive, that people are egotists, full of envy and so on, is simply not the whole truth. People are, if I may paraphrase Freud, people are much worse than they think, much more evil, and at the same time, much better than they believe. You know, this is one of the most fascinating ethical moments, how this is the moral stories from everyday life that I like to hear, how ordinary people, corrupted opportunists, then there is an emergency situation and you don't know why, click, they become ultra-ethical. Not in this pathetical way, I'm ethical, but they simply do things that have to be done. And here I see some hope. I'm not a total pessimist.
But how? Yes, the West is giving help, but is conditioning this help with buying the best land, neoliberal measures, blah, 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 and all that. Already now, the war, the conflict is going on. Conflict about what will be post-war Ukraine. And the choice is very sad. It is either a pro-Russian protectorate or a kind of a second-level state to be colonized, at least economically, by Western Europe and United States. You know, we should all the time emphasize this. The same language as Dugin, that is Russian truth versus European truth. Sorry, what European truth? Adolf Hitler is pure Europe. But you know what's the problem with Dugin here? I know he is self-inconsistent and cheating here, because he says this postmodern cultural relativism, but when he says, and he also speaks now this language, the West is the domain of Satan. It has to be not only denazified, but de-demonized and so on. Is this only his Russian view? No, he speaks as if he is at a universal position where he says, we are the good guys, they are the bad guys. Would he accept that we in the West can say the same? No, you know, he is cheating here, because he says it's only our truth, but then he nonetheless treats his own truth as universal. Because only in this way can he pass the judgment that he does on the liberal West. It's not that he is authoritarian, but
Yeah.
you know you don't agree with them, my secret authoritarian tendencies, no? And from that standpoint, I'm worried about people like Dugin. Their interventions really create chaos. The Russia his influence created is a confused mixture of oligarchs and warlords and so on, which also have, each of them has his or her own truth. The tragedy is that Russia itself, which could have been a model of Putin, once indicated this. I almost sympathized with Putin, almost, not seriously, when he says, look at Russia. We are multinational. We have Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, whatever, and we try to propose a frame where if they all respect just some basic constitutional values, they can all exist together. This is the future of Russia, I think. For me, at least. You who are protesting in Russia, you are now not just some abstract internationalists. You are the true Russian patriots, a true patriot, the one who really loves his country, is ashamed when his or her country is doing something wrong. There is no more disgusting saying than my country right or wrong. The ongoing struggle is not a struggle between the Russian truth and the European truth, as Alexander Dugin, among others, is saying. It is a struggle of all of us, a struggle in which all of us have to take a critical look also at ourselves. We in Europe also. Remember that, unfortunately, artists and thinkers can also lay the foundation for wars. This is why I think we need to stay connected now more than ever. At this moment, I cannot even imagine my life without you, who dare to protest there. I just sit here in front of my books, as you can see, but in some sense, I am alive only through you. Thank you very much. You have my deepest respect.